Again, I also want to thank you all for your flexibility of scheduling. Due to some unfortunate, annoying circumstances, I wasn't able to make the allotted time slot on Saturday. So consider this a way to extend the Salem Witchcraft and Folklore Festival by one more day. So, spelling by spelling. First, who in blazes am I? Like, what gives me the right to even talk about this kind of stuff? Well, some of you may already be aware, my name is Sam Block, and I go by the online name Polyphonies. I am the author and blogger of The Digital Ambler, my long-running blog where I share all my findings and rants and rituals that I use, I've invented, that I found from various aspects and various kinds of magical traditions. I am a Hermetic mage. I work with various Hermetic philosophy, Hermetic styles of magic. I'm an independent priest of Hermes in my own little personal Hellenic tradition. I'm also an ordained priest of Ogun in La Raga de Otolukumi, more popular known as Santeria. I've been an armchair magician since childhood, but it wasn't until I graduated college 10 years ago that I really started getting really into magic. And I haven't stopped since. So I've been a practicing magician and magical researcher since college, and I've been researching on lots of different topics. Some more well-known ones that I focus on are on the Greek magical papyri, also involving Demotic and Coptic magical papyri as well. For divination, I'm largely known for geomancy, but I also studied domino divination, domino fortune telling, and other forms of divination as well, like knucklebone divination, and a couple other minor ones as well. I write a lot about the interplay between classical Mediterranean, Renaissance European, and modern Western forms of magic, whether it's, Golden Dawn style magic, or Greek magical papyri stuff, or modern chaos stuff, or even video game magic. It all kind of ties in together in some weird and exciting ways for me. I also write a lot about Hermetic spirituality, Hermetic philosophy, Hermetic cosmology, and other ways we can use Hermeticism and Hermetism, the authentic classical, Hermetic approach to spirituality to develop and to evolve ourselves. And of course, the usual bloviating, pontificating, soapboxing, ranting that I'm known for both on Twitter and on my blog, and a variety of other things, including, especially for this presentation, Greek alphabet, magic, and mysticism. So what is it about Greek magic, Greek alphabet stuff that is interesting? Well, we all know the Greek alphabet to, some extent at least. We're very familiar as a whole in the Western occult culture about the Hebrew alphabet, especially because the influence of the Golden Dawn, Thelema, and all sorts of kinds of Solomonic magic. The Hebrew alphabet has been given this very high position when it comes to respect in magical traditions. But what's not as well known is that for all the mysticism and magical power that lies behind the Hebrew alphabet, the same things also work for the Greek alphabet as well. We can use the Greek alphabet for divination and numerology. We have associations of the Greek letters with the elements, planets, zodiac signs, stones, plants, animals, the gods and spirits themselves, the Hellenic pantheon. We can do sigillization. We can do magical timing, calendrical planning, and so much more of the Greek alphabet, just we can with the Hebrew alphabet, if not even more. It may not look necessarily Kabbalistic, if that's what you're looking for, but so many of the same underlying tools that work for the Hebrew script also work for the Greek script as well. Now, unfortunately, there's so much to talk about when it comes to this topic. I'm really excited to talk about it, but this is only a 2-hour-long class, so there's no way I can cover all this stuff. When I was refining this presentation, I tried to cut down like 3.5 hours of content just to 2. So we won't cover everything in this list here, but we'll cover enough to get you started, enough to give you a basic toolkit for you to apply in your own ways that can develop and enhance your own magical practice using the Greek alphabet. Now, when it comes to Greek alphabet, this is not a new thing. I may have developed and refined a few things, but the Greek alphabet has been in use for literally thousands of years, and it's developed a huge body of mystical, magical, spiritual, religious, and occult lore on its own. I've just kind of been compiling it and fitting it together into something more or less its own system. And you can use this system in, again, so many different ways. Not necessarily in a tree of life mapping, Hermetic Kabbalah kind of way, but you don't need to do that anyway. So it's my hope that you can at least walk away from this presentation knowing a bit more about the magical power that lies inherent within the Greek alphabet, and maybe be able to tweeze some of those things out for your own self and for your own works. Also, please do not forget the course handout, which is now shared in the chat, a link to a Google document, which has a list of everything you need to know that's important from this class, along with a few extra benefits and bonus material that we won't necessarily cover explicitly in this course. But please get yourself a copy, download it, copy it, print it, whatever. That will be your reference manual to take on from this course. So, a Greek letter. When we talk about Greek letters, we all have some familiarity with the Greek alphabet, but I want to break out what a letter even means for us. Yeah, we're all kind of familiar with the Greek alphabet, especially if you're in the college frat scene or sorority scene, the quote Greek scene of college life. So we all to know alpha, beta, gamma, sure. But when it comes to a letter, I want you to consider a letter, a gramma, if you will, broken out into 5 different things: the name it has, the sound it makes, the form it takes when you actually write it out, the number it represents, and the various bits of symbolism, which element is it associated with, which god is it associated with, and so forth. Every letter is combined from these various symbolic, elemental, zodiacal, planetary, divine associations that combine to give a letter its meaning. In that sense, every letter of the Greek alphabet is an entire cosmos, an entire kingdom unto itself, and which we can see with these 5 different points: sound, name, number, symbolism, and form. So when it comes to Greek letters, well, there are 24 letters of the Greek alphabet. There's alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, and omega. I just wanted to run through these letters real quick because, again, most of us in the Western world are familiar with the Greek alphabet to some extent. I think I skipped over a slide. Did I? Oh, I did. I'm so sorry. I didn't see my slides do that. So let's talk about the history of the Greek alphabet first before we continue on. Now we have a brief glimpse of what the letters actually are. So Greek, it's a very famous alphabet, and it's been used for writing the Greek language and similar languages and related languages, especially in the eastern part of the Mediterranean, from the late 9th or early 8th century BCE. So close to 3,000 years. It was derived from the Phoenician script originally. The Phoenician script itself is ultimately derived from Egyptian hieroglyphs. Not that that really matters for the content of this course, but it's still good knowledge to know. But because it has its origin in the Phoenician script, it also shares a linguistically etymological relationship with Hebrew and Arabic, which also share an origin in the Phoenician script. The Greek script, because of its popularity with the Greeks, with the ancient Greeks, through their works of colonization, the works of trade, they spread that alphabet throughout the Mediterranean and throughout Europe. And as it spread across Europe, it also developed further into the Latin script, which we today use for English. It's turned into Cyrillic, it turned into Runic, it turned into many other kinds of scripts. Now, at least when it comes to runes and the spiritual, mythological origin of languages, I'm not going to get into that. I'm just saying from a historical, linguistic standpoint, the Greek script is the graphical origin of these other writing systems. When the Greek alphabet came on the scene, it had filled in a notable gap in the history of Hellenic civilization. It replaced the earlier Mycenaean B script, which is completely different in so many ways, after several centuries of widespread post-Mycenaean illiteracy. So, in the ancient world, they had this wonderful civilization culture with its own writing system, and then that civilization collapsed, And then that non-orthodox system was completely lost. And it was several more centuries until they had something new come up again, which was an import from the Phoenician traders, which then became the Greek alphabet. Of course, this wasn't a one and done kind of deal, and a variety of different areas, different regions in Greece and Hellas had their own way of importing the Phoenician script and adapting it for their own needs. So while you have all these many variants of the Greek alphabet, the so-called epicoric alphabets, they weren't used any longer after an Ionian standardization based around Athens in about 400 BCE. But it's this standardized form of the alphabet that is still used to this day. Of course, it continued to develop and form cursive and lowercase and various kinds of diacritics that give a lot of people, hesitation when they're trying to read it. But fundamentally, the Greek alphabet has not changed for 2,400 years, which is rather impressive. And you can still read plenty of ancient Greek to this day. It's arguably easier to read ancient Greek from our modern point now than it might be for a modern Israeli to read, the Dead Sea Scrolls. The fundamental form of the script has not changed all that much. The Greek alphabet was also the first alphabetic script in existence, as far as we're aware, to have distinct letters for both consonants and vowels. As many people are aware, languages and scripts like Hebrew and Arabic only have symbols for consonants, and they have certain tricks they use to represent vowels, but the Greek alphabet was the first true alphabet in that it had separate sounds for vowels in addition to consonants. And now the history is done, skip ahead. So again, back to the Greek letters. There are 24 Greek letters. Here are their forms in the left-hand column of each segment, and here are their names. Largely, the letters are pretty familiar to us, but you'll notice that there are sometimes these long E's and these long O's as well. Because unlike the Latin script, which only has 5 vowels, Greek has 7 vowels. Alpha, epsilon, eta, the long E, iota, omicron, upsilon, which is sometimes represented as both a Y or a U, depending on how you transcribe the word, and omega, the long O. And so there are 7 vowels. And also, while the rest are the consonants, I'm breaking them out into, quote, 12 simple consonants and 5 complex consonants. The simple consonants represent a single sound. B, G, D, Z. The complex consonants, on the other hand, represent a double sound. Xi, for instance, is a K and a S sound. Psi is a P, S sound. So Xi and Psi, understandable. But theta, phi, and chi, why are those complex? Well, look at how we spell them. Phi, for instance, P-H-I. We pronounce this nowadays as ph, like in, father. But originally it was literally a P and an H, a breathy or aspirated P. So that's why these are called complex consonants, because they are literally 2 sounds, a T and an H, like in hothouse or courthouse for theta. Over the centuries, the pronunciation has shifted a bit. But this is a brief introduction to what the Greek letters are. You don't need to memorize any of this. It's in the course handouts. Don't worry. But this does lead, however, onto pronunciation, which is a bit of a difficult situation to get into because there's a little bit of debate and a little bit of contention about how to go about pronouncing the Greek alphabet. Especially if you're reading a whole text. Are you going to read it in the Homeric way? Are you going to read like a modern Greek newspaper? There are different schools of thought when it comes to pronouncing Greek. And largely this will be broken out into 3 different schools. The Ruhlinian pronunciation. The Ruhlinian pronunciation school basically uses modern Greek. So however people in Greece nowadays talk, that's how they're going to pronounce, Sophocles or Aeschylus or Homer. They're going to read an ancient Greek text exactly as they would read a modern Greek text using the same pronunciation rules. This is very common for native Greek speakers, and that's fine. The Erastian pronunciation, however, is one that's a little more favored by non-Hellenic philologists and classicists, where they will use a reconstructed pronunciation of classical Greek, particularly of the ancient Athenian dialect, as it was around 500 BCE. And when we think of Erastian pronunciation, that's basically what we think of when we hear ancient Greek, quote unquote. This system has been reconstructed from contemporary accounts of what people were actually saying and how they were saying it was documented back in that time period. And this is the common way you would learn ancient Greek if you studied it outside Greece nowadays. There's also the Koine pronunciation. Koine is a Greek word literally meaning common. This is the Greek of the Bible. This is the Greek that was used around the Roman Empire time, all across the Mediterranean, all the way as far east as India. If you were in the Roman Empire and you knew Greek, you were speaking Koine Greek. And this is the lingua franca used across the entire Old World from a pretty good time period, from 300 BCE to 300 CE. So this is what you had before, quote, medieval Greek. And it's still in liturgical use by the Greek Orthodox Church today. Personally, I use a more or less Koine pronunciation with some Coptic influence. But again, any of these three schools you can use just fine. Just pick a system and you go with it. So in that regard, the phonai, the sounds of the Greek script. Alpha makes an ah sound, like father. Beta, a B sound. Sometimes a V, but usually just B. Gamma, hard G, so always a G sound. Delta, D, like in duh. Epsilon, like in get. Zeta, Z. Most of these you can probably guess. How you would pronounce a Greek word nowadays is mostly the system. Eta is like an A sound, like day. It's longer and a little bit higher than A. A. Theta can be pronounced either like in thin or as a breathy T, hot house, courthouse. Either or. The aspirated form is a little more common for really ancient Greek or even for Coptic. But by this time in the Koine pronunciation, it was kind of being smoothed down to thin. Iota, E, just in general, a long E sound. Kappa, lambda, mu, nu, just you expect. Xi, a KS sound. Omicron, O as in go. It's a pure sound. Omicron is literally small o. We'll get to big O at the end. Pi, rho, sigma, tau, just you would expect. Upsilon. This gives a lot of English speakers trouble. Upsilon is not a standard U sound. It's more the French U or the German U with an umlaut. It's very front in the mouth. So if you have trouble with pronouncing the sound, make the sound E. Notice how your mouth is very wide and very thin, but your tongue is kept at the front of your mouth. Keep making that sound, but bring your lips together like you're going to kiss someone. E. The tongue position doesn't change, but your mouth shape does. That's upsilon. Phi, either an F or a breathy P. Chi, either a German ch sound, that guttural trilled in the back of the throat, or a breathy K. Psi, PS, just you expect. Omega. Remember, Omicron is literally Omicron, small o. Omega is big O, omega. So it's all. It's not quite as high as ah, but it's all, as in not, the big O sound. This is how I pronounce it. This is my sort of coiny pronunciation. Do not trust me. Find your own system, stick with it. Again, this is a very hotly debated topic depending on who you're talking to. I have seen and got involved in so many flame wars over how ancient Greek is pronounced. Just find your own system and stick with it. That's the important thing. So now we've had our introduction to what are the Greek alphabet, what are the letters, what are the names letters, what are their sounds. I want to talk about the first big, and this is like the big draw of the whole course here, the Greek alphabet oracle. This is the biggest thing when it comes to the Greek letters. And you can consider the Greek alphabet oracle to be like rune divination using the Greek letters. As known, as stated before, the Greek alphabet has 24 letters. Each letter can be associated with a certain oracular message, an oracular phrase, or a kresmoi, and each oracle starts with that letter. So the oracle for alpha will start with the letter alpha. The oracle for beta will start with the letter beta, and so forth. Historically, you would find in the agora or the forum or the marketplace or some roadside shrine to Hermes or Apollo, you'd find a pillar by the road with a table beside it. And on this pillar, you would see these 24 oracular messages inscribed on it. On the table beside this pillar, you would have a set of knuckle bones that were used for gambling or divination, or a bowl of stones, sephoi, or some dice. And you would, if you have a question, if you want to know how to proceed on your journey or how to handle some big matter, coming up to you, you would go to this pillar, you'd say a prayer to Hermes or Apollo, you would take up the dice or knuckle bones and give them a shake and see what came out, or you'd draw a random stone from this bowl, and each stone would have a letter written on it, or each of the throws of the dice or knuckle bones will be associated with one of those 24 letters. You draw a stone, or you throw the dice, you look up on the pillar what the oracle is, and there's your message. Very simple, very straightforward. What differs it from a lot of modern forms of divination is that it does not tell you what happens in the future. Because fundamentally, to the ancient Greek mindset, that was hubris. We as mortals did not get to know the minds of the gods. In fact, even among the gods, the only one who was privileged to know the mind of Zeus and what was actually going to happen in the future was Apollo. That's why you went to a special oracle of Apollo to know what would happen. But if you want to know the advice of the gods, if you want to know how to approach a given matter and see, should I, make a sacrifice? Should I, talk in this manner? Should I undertake this endeavor? That's a better thing you can ask about. And that is what this oracle shines at. It shines at giving advice and guidance. It doesn't tell you what will happen. It tells you how you should best approach the matter. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about each of these 24 oracles. Again, each of these are listed in the handout, and I'm going to share that link again in the group chat. So with that in mind, let's get started. So the first letter of the alphabet is alpha. The letter here is alpha. The word here is hapanta, everything. You will achieve everything with good fortune, says the god. Hapanta praxes eutukos theos lege. What does this oracle say? It literally says what it says. You will have everything, you will do everything will be fine. Complete success. This is the most favorable letter of the entire Greek alphabet. Alpha is the first, it is the best. It is the most favorable oracle of them all. Complete success. Everything that happens, everyone you deal with will agree with you, they'll help you, they'll negotiate with you, they'll help fulfill your plans. Everything you hope for will come to pass. Whatever the query is, whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to undertake, whatever you're trying to resolve, whoever's involved in it, everything will turn out well for you. It is the best possible omen from this system. But note how it says, theos lege, says the god. Which god? Well, as I mentioned, this oracle in specific was generally under the auspices of Hermes or Apollo. Apollo because he's the god of the oracles and prophecy in general, but Hermes as well because he's the god of divination, divination as opposed to prophecy. In the Homeric hymn to Hermes, Apollo gave divination to Hermes because he had already been given prophecy and had no need for the, quote, childish games or talking with birds, so he gave it to Hermes as a gift of friendship. But that's the Homeric myth. In actual real-life religion, the two are pretty conflated in this matter. So in general, Hermes and or Apollo are the gods of this divination system. And Hermes especially because he's the one who goes between us and any and all of the gods. However, that doesn't mean you can only use this oracle with just Hermes or Apollo. You can use it with any deity you're working with, any Hellenic deity. I haven't used it with other deities, but it's a pretty common sense system. I don't see much of an issue if you want to bring it to other traditions. Just, ask for their favor and permission first. So, Alpha. Everything will be fine. You'll be fine. Everything's great. Beta. With fortune, you will have an assistant, boethon, assistant, the Pythian. Boethonexes metatukes ton Pythian. With fortune, you'll have an assistant, the Pythian. With the proper acts and choices and a bit of luck, you will be successful. Not quite as favorable as Alpha, but it's a pretty good letter as well. Now it says the Pythian, ton Pythian. It's referring to Apollo. One of Apollo's epithets was the Pythian, related to the python that he slew at Delphi before he claimed that place as his own. So when it refers to the Pythian, the god at Delphi, this is referring specifically to Apollo. This oracle involves Apollo. So the god of prophecy and prophets, the far shooter, he is the archer. He was considered unmanly in ancient Greece because he didn't fight with a spear or a sword. He didn't fight on the front lines. He fought from the rear with his bows and arrows. So Apollo was considered the master at pulling strings, the master planner, the one who works behind the scenes to get something done. So as the god who works behind the scenes, help will come to you so long as you're ready for it, so long as you plan for it, so long as you have that extra bit of luck on your side. Help will come to you from distant, far away, indirect, or even unexpected sources when you need it most. Because of this, the advice here in this letter is you still need to do the work. That's true. You have to do the work. You have to walk the talk. But rely on the gods. Call on the gods. Call on help when you need it, whether it's by magic, whether it's praying for miracles, whether it's asking for support or advice from someone, or even you're just counting on some serendipitous happenstance. You will have the help you need, so long as you keep doing the work you need to do. You'll get the help, so long as you keep doing the work. The help will not replace the work. The help will assist with the work. The Oracle of Gamma. The earth, Ge, as in Gaia, will give you the right fruit of your labors. Ge swateleon karpon apodos seponum. The earth will give you the right fruit of your labors. Bear in mind that, like most traditional cultures across the world, ancient Greece was largely an agrarian society. So there's a couple references throughout this whole oracle system regarding planting and farming and harvesting. And of those oracles that reference this stuff, Gamma is the most favorable. I love this oracle. The earth will give you the right fruits of your labors. It is payoff time. It is harvest time. The things you've done in the past are now coming to fruition. They're coming to completion, and you'll have the benefit of it all. Hopefully, you did good things in the past to get the good things now. If you sowed crappily in the past, you're going to get crap now. So long as you've done good things in the past, you'll get good things in the future. Everything that happens in this oracle is a direct result of everything that you've already done before. Not just the stuff you haven't done, but specifically the things you've done. Past events and actions determine future events and actions. So look to the past, see what you did to get an idea of what you can expect for the future. Because the things you've already done are now coming to fruition and coming to completion. And now they're going to start blossoming that you can take the harvest from them. As I said, this is a pretty favorable oracle, so long as you made it favorable. Hindsight is 2020, but again, this is generally a pretty good letter to have. Delta. Ill-timed strength, dynamis, is weak in customs. Dynamis akairos en nomoion asthenes. Ill-timed strength in customs is weak. We all like strength. We all like being strong, but there's always a time and place to be strong in a particular way. Don't be the bull in the china shop. Don't try to force someone's hand when their hand is not to be forced. Some things take place in their own way, at their own time, at their own speed. Don't force them if you're not supposed to. Because if you try to force something when it can't be forced, you'll break it. People get upset with you. People won't like you. And we don't like that. We don't like when people don't like us. So in all things, when you get this oracle of Delta, ill-timed strength in customs is weak. Customs being law, being protocol, process, things expected of you. Follow the process, follow the protocol, slow down, form a strategy, go with the flow, and work within the system that you're in instead of against it. Because when you try to go against the grain, that's when you screw up. That's when you get problems. That's when you break stuff, and that's when you yourself are broken. It doesn't matter how strong you are. If you're strong at the wrong time, you're still going to be weak. So don't be a bull in a china shop. Don't shoot your shot too soon. Time yourself appropriately. Also, work smarter, not harder. You don't need to put in elbow grease all the time. Sometimes you just need to go with the flow and do the right thing at the right time and save yourself so many problems down the line. So no matter how much power you have, be responsible with it. Don't be reckless with it. That's the Oracle of Delta. Epsilon. I hate this oracle because it's such a misleading one. It's so difficult to understand. So be aware of the subtleties here. You desire, eras, you desire to see offspring from proper marriages. Eres tikain and gamon idein sporan. So this isn't really an oracle. It's not really telling you advice. It's not really guiding you. It is kind of stating something. You want to see legitimate children from legitimate marriages. So this isn't so much advice, but it's more of a warning. It's more of forcing you to reflect on what it is you're hoping for. We all want to see the results of things we're hoping for. We want to see our best friends or even our own marriages, be done properly. We want to see things done right. We want to see the results of things done right. But it may not be our business to do that. It's none of my business if my best friend and his wife have a child. It's not my business whether they have it legitimately. It's not my business whether they have an illegitimate child out of wedlock. It doesn't matter for me. But I still may want to see things happen in a certain way. We want to see the results from acceptable confluences of actions, things that are acceptable to us, things that we deem righteous and proper and lawful. So we're basically being told in this oracle that we're on the outside looking in. And we have to accept that we are a stranger to the situation, no matter what our expectations are. As a stranger, we have to learn to act as is proper for us as an external stranger to that situation. In other words, stay in your lane. Don't meddle in the affairs of others if you don't have the right to. Instead of trying to worry about others, worry about yourself. Be the change you want to see in the world. If you want to encourage other people to have, children in wedlock, have legitimate children, have one yourself. Don't tell other people their business. Focus on yourself. Keep your nose where it doesn't belong. And where it does belong, focus on that and do what you want to see from there. So be a good influence on others, but don't try to force them either. This is a complicated oracle and it can be really hard to understand at times. So really ponder this message here. Ponder all the messages for that matter. All these messages are pretty straightforward, pretty clear. We're just taking a bit of time unpacking each one. But this one especially is one of the complicated, subtle ones in the set of oracles. Zeta. Zale megisten feuge meti kai blabes. Flee the great storm. Zale. Flee the great storm unless you somehow be harmed. A storm's coming. Honey, you got a big storm coming. Just like in that meme video. Every sailor knows better than to sail into a storm unless they have no other choice. Think of Odysseus at sea. He could not avoid it going into a storm. He had to. And as a result, he lost his crew several times, for that matter. He lost his ships several times because he had to go into a storm. He was destined to. He had no other choice. But if you ask any of those sailors who got lost along the way, should we sail with the storm? Hell no! Why would we? Shit sucks. Dangerous times are coming. Dangerous and difficult situations are coming. And if you at all have the ability to stay out, keep yourself seated and comfortable at home. You do not need to get involved in them if you have any choice. You will only get hurt. You will only get harmed. You will only be destroyed potentially if you get involved. So only do so if you're ready to take the hit. But if you have another choice, prepare to get hit anyway. Sometimes the storm just happens. Sometimes, though, we cause them. Back to Odysseus, well, he kind of brought a lot of those storms on himself. He was pretty proud, pretty reckless in his travels, and he upset Poseidon, the god of the sea. And as a sailor, that was certainly a life choice he made. So sometimes we cause these storms and we have to deal with them. We can't always just cause a drama storm and just go, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to sit down now. Sometimes you have to deal with the repercussions of your actions, and fleeing the storm will only delay the inevitable. So don't cause storms, and if you see a storm coming, don't get involved in it if you can at all avoid it. Sometimes it's better just to stay home and put things off till things blow over. Eta. The bright sun, Helios. The bright sun who sees everything sees you. Helios hora se lamprosos tapanta ora. You got the spotlight on you. The bright sun who is in the middle of the sky illuminating the entire world is shining specifically on you. He's looking at you. This can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing depending on how you're acting. Consider the Orphicum to Helios. Foe to the wicked, but the good man's guide, or all his steps propitious you preside. Are you a foe? Are you wicked? Or are you a good person? It depends on how you act. The sun is the champion of light. The sun is, the great conqueror of darkness. If you don't operate within darkness, you are a friend to the light. So act in light. Act nobly. Act openly. And you will have the blessing protection of heaven and the sun. This is not the time to be furtive, to be secretive, or hidden with any of your works. Because anything that is in the dark will be thrust into light. There will be no shadows to hide under. Anything kept secret will be revealed. Remember that it was the sun who revealed the sexual liaison between Aphrodite and Ares against the will of Aphrodite's husband Hephaestus. Bear in mind that anything made in oath or promise will be enforced. Next to swearing by sticks, you could swear by the sun. The bright sun who sees everything sees you. The sun is watching you. Act accordingly. Because if you're in darkness, he will take away that darkness. If you're acting darkly, he will bring light to bear down upon you. So long as you're acting properly and openly without keeping secrets, without hiding stuff from people, you'll be fine. So this is a warning, but it's also advice because the sun wants to help. We all want to receive the blessing of the sun. The sun is powerful. It's good to have the blessing of the sun. Act accordingly to be worthy of them. Theta. You will have the succoring gods of this path. Theos, gods. Theos arogos, tes odudautes heis. Succoring, helping, assisting, propitious, fortuitous. The helping gods of this path. You're on the right path. When you draw this letter, take hope. People are always asking diviners and seers and mediums, am I doing the right thing in my life? Am I in the right place in my life? This letter says, yes, you are doing the right thing. You are on the right path. Keep going. Commit yourself to the path that you're on, and you will have the gods along this road helping you every step of the way. You still have to walk that road. You can't just turn around and go home. You can't just take a break. You have to keep walking along that road to your destination. But so long as you commit yourself to that road, you will get to your destination, and things will turn out better than you expect to. Because the gods themselves, especially of this course of action, whoever those gods are, it could be literal land spirits. It could be the wind at your back. If you're operating on a metaphorical road, it's the gods of that matter. A business path, Hermes. A medicine path, Asclepius. You will have the helping gods of this path. The gods will bless those who honor them and help those who help themselves. Keep doing what you have to do, and the gods will see it through as well. So just remember, when you get this letter, to be respectful, be gracious, and be thankful for the gods, because the gods are helping you. It's right and proper for us to thank them for what they're doing for us, even when we don't know about it. Even when all seems lost, the gods will help you when you get this letter. Yoda. Hidrotes esin plena anton perese. There is sweat. You'll be superior beyond everything. This isn't just sweat from being outside in the summer, or in my case, a room without air conditioning. This is sweat as a result of heat, whether internal or external. And when you have heat, heat is fire. It is the body's metabolism changing food into energy, processing itself, processing and developing or refining itself. Think alchemically. Fire is what changes. It's what burns and destroys and renews all things. So sweat is being produced from your body in this letter. Sweat is being produced to cause change. And this change affects itself through work. You have to work. This is the time to get sweaty and dirty. This is the time where you need to actually put in the labor and burn. If you're doing something religious or spiritual, inflame yourself with prayer. If you're running a marathon, this is the point where you stock up on carbs to make sure your metabolism can keep going. You have to work. You have to put yourself through your paces and really set yourself aflame with whatever you need to do so you can sweat it out in order to succeed. But you will succeed so long as you work, so long as you put yourself the tasks ahead of you, so long as you actually inflame yourself and put a fire under your own feet. You will be victorious over everything. You will be superior beyond everything. So keep working. No matter what the cost, keep working, because it will all pay off in the end. Giving up is not an option. Set yourself to your work, and all else will follow accordingly. Kappa. To fight with waves is difficult. Wait, friend. Kumasi majeste chalepon anamenon pile. There are 3 oracles in this set of oracles that directly address you as phile, friend or beloved. Take these 3 oracles very clearly. They do not stutter. They do not mislead. They are saying something very clearly and addressing you. They're not wandering about. They're not talking about other things. They're talking about specifically you. To fight with waves is difficult. The problems of life will come and go, but will never fully go away. Life is hard. Life sucks, especially this year, 2020, where everything seems to collapse and break down. It's like we're constantly being battered by the endless waves of the ocean, being ground down and beaten down over and over again. And that's just for us on the shore. Imagine what's like for the sailors. You don't have to be in a storm to have a hard time at sea. When there are high winds, there's lots of waves that can really rock the boat. Whether you're on the shore or whether you're at sea, there's always going to be problems. Whether you're at home or whether you're at work, there's always going to be problems. Sometimes it's better that you just don't deal with those problems. Sometimes those problems aren't yours, and you just need to let the waves pass over you. You think the Bene Gesserit, litany against fear from the Dune series. I'll let my fear pass over me and through me, and when it is gone, only I will remain. I don't remember the entire thing off the top of my head, but that's kind of the same kind of thing here. Wait when possible. Endure when you can. Persevere with care. If you have to go out into those, wavy oceans, do so. Take, some anti-nausea medicine with you just in case, especially if you don't have your sea legs. If you're on the shore, maybe shoal up yourself, maybe build a retaining wall to break the waves, but there's always going to be waves. There'll always be problems. Take care with them. It's not a bad thing. You're not being assured of success here. You're not being assured of failure here. It's just saying, be careful. And if at all possible, take a break. Wait. Just maybe let this pass. If it passes, awesome. If it doesn't pass, you're going to have to go through it anyway. So if you're already at sea, work with the sea. Learn to rock with the waves instead of against them. Don't give up. It's going to be sink or swim. Sometimes, if you're going through hell, keep going. This is the letter that recommends endurance. Keep it up. Lambda. The one passing by on the left means that everything will be well. Left, Laios. Laios dielthon panta semine kalos. We all know what the word sinister means. Wicked, evil. But what a lot of people don't know is that the word sinister literally means left-handed in Latin. And when we call someone dexterous, skillful, adept, well-suited to something, well, dexter means right-handed. There's a traditional notion in lots of cultures around the world that things that are right-handed are good and favorable, and things that are left-handed are evil and unfavorable. And this is especially seen in traditional forms of augury. Think of the Roman way of bird watching for divination. You trace out a little segment in the sky that you watch with all intent and dedication, and you see clouds or birds or other celestial phenomena happening in that zone of the sky. And things that happen on your left-hand side or that go towards left were seen as ill omens. Things that happen on the right were good omens. But this oracle is telling you just the opposite. The one passing by on the left means that everything will be well. In other words, don't trust things at face value. Don't take things the way they seem, because you will be deceived. That which looks unfortunate is actually a blessing in disguise for you. Whatever looks bad at the start will turn out well. So take heart, have faith, and avoid falling into despair or especially superstition. If you see a black cat cross your path, a lot of people say, oh, it's bad luck. Is it? Or is it going to catch the mouse that's in your house? Things look bad, but they will be good. Just trust them. Sometimes, especially if you're doing this oracle with someone, or if a bad omen happens around other people when you're present, that bad omen isn't bad for you. It's bad for them. So when you get this letter, Lambda, the one passing by on the left means everything will be well. It's telling you that you will see a bad omen. You will hear really unfortunate news very soon. It's not unfortunate for you. It's actually going to be fortunate for you. It's going to be unfortunate for someone else. So if it's a bit of news, you'll win, someone else will lose. If it's an omen that happens in the world, that omen isn't for you. This letter is just letting you know, be aware, things will look bad at the start, but they'll be fine. Just take faith. The Oracle of Mu. Mochtenananke, metabole, desdekale. You will need to toil. Mochten, toil, work. But the change will be good. This is like Yoda. There's sweat. It excels better than everything. This is like that. But this is just telling you, you have to do the work. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. You've probably been told before, you just need to work. You just need to put yourself to the grind and just do the work. Shut up, stop complaining, just do the work. That's all there is to it. Like, this is elbow grease. This is where you can't necessarily work smarter. You just have to work harder. Whatever you attain in life will be done by your own hands, the work you put into it. So you just have to work at it. You have to toil, you have to labor. It's not about enduring work. It's not about having to put up with work. It's just work. No emotions behind it, just work. It's really simple, this letter. And again, the change will be good. Your work will pay off, but you have to work. You'll have fantastic results, but you have to work to get there. Just work. New. The strife-bearing gift will fulfill the oracle. Nekefonon dorema don montele. Something will happen in the situation you're asking about. That will involve an exchange of sorts. Something that is given from one side to the other. And it's going to cause problems. Nekefonon, strife-bearing. It'll cause a fight. It'll cause drama. It'll cause issues between friends or lovers or enemies even. But it's the act of that exchange that triggers everything else. Things cannot proceed in the situation until that act of exchange is being made. Seen another way, there's a fight involving a literal thing that will resolve the situation once it's given over. So think of the Trojan horse. You had the Greeks and the Trojans at a standstill for 10 years until the Greeks finally breached the wall. But that wall wasn't breached by sheer force. It was breached by deception, by the Greeks piling to a giant wooden horse that was then given to the Trojans as a gift. The strife-bearing gift fulfills the oracle. The Trojan horse fulfilled the destined fall of Troy. So when you see this oracle of new, the strife-bearing gift will fulfill the oracle, think of the Trojan horse. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be deceptive about something. It just means you have to give something over, or someone will have to give you something in order for the situation to continue. It may not resolve immediately as a result of that, but it will continue to resolve. Also, nekephoron could well be a typo in the original Greek. It can also be nikephoron. In other words, there's no epsilon there. Victory bearing, strife bearing, victory bearing. In that case, whoever gives the gift could be victorious. Whoever gets the gift, if they know how to use it best, will be victorious. Consider the Trojan War again. If the Trojans had known about the Greeks hitting the Trojan horse, they could have burned the thing when it got to the city walls, and they wouldn't have to worry about the Greeks again. It depends on how the person receiving the gift makes use of it. Also, as an aside, it might be good to make offerings to Nike, the goddess of victory, when you give this letter, just to have her on your side. Xai, or xi technically in Greek. Xeron apoklaron karponuke steblaben. There's no fruit to take from withered shoot. You're barking up the wrong tree. The course of action you're on has already been decided to be a no-go from the moment you set foot on it. You're on a dead-end path. Things have failed before they've even begun. The life has been cut short before it even grew up. What you're asking about is impossible. It was impossible from the get-go. It's still impossible now. It will continue to be impossible in the future. You can't take fruit from withered shoot because the shoot's already dead. It's already been dried up and desiccated, and there's no chance for it to produce fruit in the future. Just give up. The path you're on is terrible. You need a new path. You need a new thing to do. So don't try for the impossible. Don't go against the natural order of things. Unlike Jesus, who withered the whole fig tree when he just decided to one day, this is saying, oh no, the tree's already withered. You're trying to do the reverse, and you're not Jesus. So don't. It's better to start over from scratch or look elsewhere entirely. Just take a new path, start over fresh, and things will be better from there. But you cannot continue along this current course of action. Sometimes, when we ask a lot of questions to gods, sometimes we do a lot of divination in a single sitting. You just keep asking questions, you keep asking questions, you keep asking questions. This oracle might come up more and more often, because this can often be a sign that you need to stop asking questions you already know the answer to. So it's not so much taking fruit from a withered shoot, but it's taking fruit from a tree you've already harvested. Sometimes you ask a lot of questions, or you already ask questions you already know the answer to. The gods themselves may be aware of that and may be unwilling to talk to you at that point. They're telling you to stop bothering them. They're telling you to cut it out. You already have an answer. Or you've acted in a way that has upset them and they are denying you an answer. In this case, the gods themselves are the withered shoot and they don't want to help you anymore. So they're not going to give you anything. So if you get this letter right up at the start, take a step back and consider, am I doing things right? Am I living my life properly? Have I upset the gods? Am I being sensible and reasonable about something? If you're asking 15 questions in a row and just trying to take different variations of the same question to get an answer you want, and you get this letter, they're telling you just stop, just relax, move on. The Oracle of Omicron. Ugesti me speranta terise carpima. There are no crops. Ugesti, there are no crops to reap that were not sown. This is a lot like Gamma. In Gamma, it said, the earth will give you the ripe fruits of your labors. But here, there are no crops to reap that were not sown. Like with Gamma, past actions determine future ones. Except this is the inverse. The lack of past actions determines the lack of future ones. You did not sow, therefore you have nothing to harvest. Or it's a warning that you need to sow in order to harvest. It's a warning against laziness and procrastination and sloth. Because if you're a farmer and you don't farm, you don't have a job and you don't have food. Sucks to be you. You have to do the work to get where you want. And if you did not do the work, you will not get what you want. So this letter could be a reminder that, hey, you should have done the work you did. Now you're going to suffer because you didn't do it. Or it could be a warning, hey, if you don't do the work, you won't get the result you want. So you need to do the work. Bear in mind, however, that inaction and negligence are not necessarily the same thing. Inaction for things undone that are not necessary impacts you and you alone primarily. Sure, it can have side effects that impact others, but when you're just inactive, you're just screwing yourself over. But when you're negligent, that's for things undone that were necessary to be done. So that impacts other people around you as well. Inaction is like, you didn't take a bath this morning. So you're going out to a public event and you're going to go out smelly. Well, that's on you. Negligence is if you're the party organizer and you forgot to set up the party. Now you have the whole group of people who are going somewhere to go attend, and now they have nowhere to go because you forgot to make the reservation. Either way, whether you're inactive and screwing yourself over or negligent and screwing other people over, what is not done, or at least not done properly, will come back to haunt you. So don't expect to receive that which you did not work for. Pi. Finishing many contests, you will seize the crown. Polus agonas Dionysas lepse stepos. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Honestly, read that entire poem. It's actually an entire poem. Read the poem and bear that in mind with this letter. Keep working, keep trying. You're going to fail. You're going to get better over time, and you're going to keep getting better over and over and over again until you finally succeed. If you're a marathon runner, you're not going to make a 20-minute marathon your first time. No one ever really does. Hell, I can't even do a 20-minute mile. So keep running, keep practicing, keep trying, keep competing, and eventually you will get there. You won't get there at first, but you will eventually get there. This letter is telling you you're probably going to fail. You're probably going to stumble. You're probably going to fall. That's okay. Get back up and keep going. Remember that the Greek word for contest is agon, which gives us our word agony, a trial, conflict, adversity. You will have to fight. You will have to suffer. Keep going. Keep doing it. Keep trying, and you will get there. Success will probably not be immediate, but a gradual process of refinement instead is what's being indicated in this letter that will lead to fulfillment of what you want. Keep trying and keep getting better, and eventually you will get there. Ro. You will go on more easily if you wait for a short while. Round yexes eti brachun mees chronon. Just relax. Go with the flow. Do not act now. You're putting yourself at a disadvantage if you try to act now. Don't stress about it. Don't strive. If you have plans, put your plans back for a bit. If just go with the natural flow. Just go with the chill. Just calm down. Woosah. Relax. Take a deep breath. Have a nap. Make yourself a snack. And then get back to work after things clear up. This letter is telling you that if you try to act now, things will be difficult, or at least more difficult than if you acted later. Let things clear up. Let other people have their way first. It's not sloppy seconds if you still enjoy it. That's fine. Go with the flow. Let things resolve on their own first before you start resolving them yourself. This is a very clear-cut oracle, says exactly what it means. Sigma. Remember with Kappa, how we had that weird ending where it's addressing you directly with Phile? This is another one. So when you see Sigma as well, snap to attention. Phoebos speaks clearly. Stay, friend. Sapos o Phoebos en nepe menon vile. Do nothing. Don't do a goddamn thing. Neither fight nor flee, advance nor retreat, make no plans, offer no suggestions, offer no names, just stay right where you are. Apollo himself is talking to you in the letter. Phoebos, the bright one, the shining one. And he's speaking Sappos clearly. There's no mystery, there's no obfuscation, there's no metaphor here. He's just telling you bluntly and frankly, stay right where you are. Only react or act or interact when it is appropriate to do so, and that time is definitely not now. Do nothing. And because the bright one is communicating to you clearly and directly here, it's also a warning. Do not be dense. Some people like to be dense. Some people like to play dim. Some people like to play coy. Do not do that. Do not be obfuscating. Do not be duplicitous. Do not be a liar. Do not try to hide yourself. Do not try to hide behind words or try to justify some weird course of logic that gets you where you want. Don't do any of that. Just sit your ass down, stay where you are, and things will resolve. And later you can work or make progress towards you want, but not now. Do not do anything now. Tau. You will have a parting of the companions with you now. Ton nun paruson symboron exes lucin. There's going to be some sort of separation coming your way. Whether your friends will separate from you, or you separate from your friends, or partners, or allies, or even more metaphorical, the situation, the resources you're with, the things that you have now, or the things you're with now, will not be what you end up with. Whether you stay on your own, whether you find a new group is up to you. But you will not stay with the people and the places and the resources you are right now. Traditionally, going alone is seen as a negative thing. We're big on independence. We're big on self-action nowadays. But traditionally, in a lot of communities, you need to rely on other people to make it out there. Because in companionship, alliance, and society, there's life, there's support, there's assistance. But in isolation, separation, or even worse, exile, death. Traditionally, exile was often seen as a fate worse than death. To be a stranger in a strange land with nothing you have supporting you, all your friends being unreachable, no one there around you, no citizenship, nothing, exile is terrible. So at worst, when you get this letter, you're going to be deprived of necessary support so that you'll end up suffering on your own. But if you play your cards right, and if you know what you're doing, if you know how to handle yourself, whether on your own or how to get into another support network, you'll be delivered from detrimental groups or at best, groups that don't serve you anymore, so you can thrive instead. Again, whether on your own or a new company. But the core of this message is that you will not end up with the same people situations that you are in now. There will be a parting of the companions around you now. Upsilon. The work holds a noble undertaking. Hyposkesi, literally standing under, undertaking, or taking under. Hyposkesi do pragma gneianeche. No matter how small or trivial the matter you're putting divination may seem, what you're asking about is a lot bigger than it seems. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're deciding on, can go one of two ways. Think of the letter upsilon, this fork in the road. The letter upsilon was considered to be the philosopher's letter, showing a fork in the road and a choice to be made, a path of virtue and honor versus a path of vice and dishonor. You consider Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverge in a road. How will you proceed? Will you proceed down the usual course of action? That'll go, as usual, nothing big. Maybe you just be vice and decrepitude, things getting worse, they always will, according to the corrupted nature of this world. Or will you take the good road, the high road, the path of virtue that leads to greater and mightier works, to nobility? This letter is telling you that you're going to make a choice, and you can make one choice or you can make the other. Keep on the lookout for opportunities and openings for advancement beyond what was originally envisioned. But it's also a warning. Don't go down the road of vice and decrepitude. Don't go down the road of dishonor. Be noble. You have the choice. You're a human being with free will. You have the choice of how to act and comport yourself. Do so in the best way possible, and you'll end up better than you can imagine. Do so otherwise, well, you get what you get. 5. Having acted carelessly, after a time you will blame the gods. Paros di praxas metachronon mempseleois. People make mistakes. We all make mistakes from time to time. But when you get this letter, you definitely made the mistakes. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, the effect is the same. A mistake has the same effect as something done with ill intent. The effect is the same. The intent is nice to know about, but doesn't change the result. Whether wanted or not, you made a mistake, and so you have to pay the price. This letter is telling you that you have to take responsibility for your own actions, inactions, misactions. For your use, misuse, and abuse of things, you have to take responsibility. Do not blame external situations. Do not blame other factors. Do not blame other people for the problems that you yourself caused. You acted carelessly, and now you need to take responsibility for your actions. You need to make amends. You need to make apologies, where and when necessary. And definitely don't do this. Don't blame the gods for your own bullshit, because that's a recipe for disaster. When the gods speak, mortals must listen, or they will face their downfall. Do not be proud for the gods. Do not blame your own bad actions and bad choices on the gods, because they were your choices. They may have told you something. They may have tried to get you acting a certain way, but it's you, fundamentally you, the mortal, the human, who acted how you did. Blaming the gods for what you did will only make your situation worse. This letter is telling you to wake up, take responsibility for yourself, and fix the problems you're in. Kai, or he. Cruson poieses cresmon epituque phile. Again, phile, pay attention, this letter is bigger than it seems. Succeeding, O friend, you will bring about a golden oracle. It's weird that this message will be about another oracle, but it's really telling you that there's something bigger than what seems here. Like with Upsilon, there's a hidden choice in the matter that can lead to bigger and mightier things. This letter on the face of it tells you that you're going to succeed. Like, yeah, of course you're going to succeed. That's the very first word here in the English translation. You're going to succeed. But in the course of succeeding, you're going to bring out something even better, even bigger. A favorable result is indicated here, but even more subtle and grander success is at hand when you get the letter chi. Epituchon, succeeding, literally means hitting the mark or meeting with success. So there's a subtle suggestion here of meeting, involving, or working with others to attain your bigger goal. And your bigger goal will lead on to even bigger goals. Your success will lead to a more cosmic, a more encompassing good thing than the one you put to divination. You're asking about something that's way bigger than you know. And it's going to turn out much better than you can think or can imagine. You might be focused on the little tiny sliver of life that you're focused on. But in the course of you fulfilling what you're asking about, you're going to be touching a lot more people. You're the butterfly wings that cause whole storms across the ocean, just by whatever it is you're asking about. You're in the cosmic order of things now. You are now in the course of fate. You have tapped into something that is bigger than you know, and so you need to act accordingly as well. Fate guides the willing but drags the unwilling. So part of a poem from a Stoic philosopher. You have no choice now. In succeeding, you're going to play a role in bigger things. That's not for you to say now. You're already in the course of that. So get ready for some big things to happen because of the small thing you're doing now. Psi. Psephon dikayan dinde paratheon hes. You have this just judgment from the gods. Psephon. Now, Psephon, the word here is literally pebble. Because back in the days, you'd have trials and courts decide things by throwing little pebbles or little potsherds into a bucket, white or black, marked one way or marked another way. And that's how judgments and votes were tallied. So the gods themselves have deliberated, debated, voted on, and have now agreed in the matter and are rendering to you their judgment, and they are not to be denied. This is the letter of fate, capital F, fate taking form and taking place. Psi, think of psionics. Think of the letter psyche, or the, psyche, the soul, psychology. Psi is the letter of mystery. This is the letter of fate. The gods themselves have decided that what you're asking about is to be in the proper order of the cosmos. What you are asking about will come to pass, and in coming to pass, it has been deemed lawful and righteous, whether or not you want it to happen. If you're asking about something good that you're hoping to achieve, that thing you're hoping to achieve has been decided to be right and proper by the gods. If you're asking about something bad that you're hoping to avoid, no, that bad thing's going to happen, and that bad thing has been, understood to be deliberated and voted on and approved of by the gods, and it's up to you to deal with that. Psi is a difficult letter to understand. This letter of mystery. Take this consideration very carefully. Omega, the last oracle of the bunch. We're at the end. It only took like 50 minutes. Omen oporan en labes o crescimon. It is not good if you take a premature harvest. Omen. Just how Alpha, the first letter of the alphabet, had the most favorable oracle, Omega, as the last letter, has the worst oracle. The time is not yet right to take advantage of the matter. Don't take a premature harvest. Taking action now will lead to uselessness, worthlessness, and difficulty. You have to let the crops mature. You have to let the crops grow. You have to let rain fall on them. You have to tend to them before you can harvest them. You can't eat unripe stuff. It'll kill you if you even have anything to eat. Obviously the plants haven't burst forth from the ground yet. You don't have anything to even take from that. At best, this letter indicates just stay on your course, keep doing what you're doing, and wait for the matter to develop further before inquiring again. All good things in life take time. You have to be the right place, the right time, with the right preparations, doing the right work in order to get what you want. So at best, this letter is telling you, don't bother yet. Go back to what you're doing. But at worst, this letter is utter despair and worthlessness. Think of Xai. There's no fruit taken withered shoot. At this point, you don't even know whether it's going to be withered yet or not. And sometimes it will be. Sometimes the world is against you, no matter what you do. This letter, omega, could tell you that's too little, too late. And sometimes the only thing you can do is just go back to bed. Or just even start, just stay in bed. If you do have a practice of doing divination every day in the morning to get an idea of what's going to happen that day, and you get omega, just go back to bed. Call it sick from work, just go back to bed, give up, do nothing that day. Start again tomorrow. So that's it. Those are the 24 letters of the Greek alphabet. Those are the 24 oracles of the 24 letters of the Greek alphabet. But we've only been here for an hour, 15 minutes. We still have 45 minutes left, and there's plenty more to talk about. So these are the oracles. I mentioned before how the ancient Greeks would actually draw these oracles. You could use a bowl of 24 stones, where each stone, psephos, is inscribed a different letter. So you just, put your hand in the bowl, don't look, shuffle around the bowl, draw out a stone. Oh, I got kappa. Oh, okay, so it's difficult to fight with waves. Stay, friend. Okay, that's my oracle. You could throw 5 knuckle bones. These are sheep knuckle bones, and these are what traditionally used for gambling, for gaming, just like how we use tabletop dice nowadays. Knuckle bones can fall on one of 4 sides, each of which has a certain numerical value, and we'll get to that in a bit. Again, always 5. We'll get to that in a bit. You could use 5 dice, just plain 6-sided dice. They had them back in ancient Greece too. You could use stones, knuckle bones, dice, and many other methods. You could use a deck of cards. You could try any other methods. What's important is that you get some method that gets you a letter. Obviously, using stones or tiles or potsherds is the most direct, but knuckle bones and dice are also pretty traditional. So when you're tallying up bones, well, there are 4 sides to a bone. You have a narrow concave side, you have a wide concave side, a wide bulging side, and a narrow bulging side. And those go in order from 1, 3, 4, and 6. They didn't use 2 or 5. I'm sure they had good reasons for it. I don't know. But with these 4 thrones of 5 knuckle bones, you can get results that go from 5 to 30. 30, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, and so forth. Or you could use 5 6-sided dice, and again, tally them up the same way, going from 5 all the way to 30. Now, based on knuckle bones, you'll notice that there's no 29 and there's no 6. Because using these knuckle bones, with the numerical values their sides have, there's no way to throw 5 knuckle bones and get a value of 29 or value of 6. So they just skip those. They started with the highest value given to alpha, the best letter, the lowest value given to omega, the worst letter, and just proceeded accordingly. But if you look at the dice, there's gaps here for 25 and 13, which is weird because you can totally throw 5 dice and get 25 and 13. So what gives with this kind of gap here? Well, this takes us into numerical associations with the Greek letters. This gets us into numerology. There's a reason for this, and we're going to dive into that reason now. Now, numerology. Everyone knows what numerology is. We all know what numerology is. We all know what gematria is, especially with Hebrew stuff, with Jewish stuff. And numerology is an old practice. And like other traditional writing systems, the Greek script lacked a separate set of numerals. We nowadays use Arabic numerals, digits 0 through 9. But traditionally in Greek and Hebrew and Arabic, you didn't have separate numerals. You had the letters. So each letter did double duty, both as something to pronounce something with, as well as to mark numerical values. We all know of gematria, and gematria is especially popular with Hebrew, sometimes with English, but existing evidence suggests that's old enough that it actually happened in Greek before even happening in Hebrew. We think of Hebrew and Jewish gematria as old. That's absolutely true, it is. But there's evidence to suggest that the Greek gematria, Greek numerology, is even older. In Greek, we would call it isopsia, literally equal accounting, where you tally up the numerical values of certain letters in a certain string to find a numerical value. So words that had the same numerical value based on tallying up their letters as numbers would have some sort of symbolic identity. And this was commonly used for encoding words as numbers. Think of 666, the mark of the beast in the book of Revelation. We see it used in magical texts, like in the magical papyri, clasp a pebble number 3663, 3663, which is the numerical value of Bain Ko'och, literally soul of darkness in Egyptian. Bain Ko'och actually has a large role to play in this ritual of the magical papyri. This pebble serves as a talisman to protect yourself with that power. We even find Ives of Sophia used as encoding in vulgar graffiti, like in Pompeii, I love her whose number is 545. You could find someone's name by kind of encoding it this way. So this is like, I had sex with her, you know who. If you know who is, that one. And as I mentioned before, words with an equal numerological value can seen as share a deeper connection or symbolism. So what are those values? Well, very straightforward. It's kind of tens based, but we go from 1 to 9, 10 to 90, 100 through 900. Yes, I know there are gaps. I'll get to that in a bit. So alpha is 1, beta is 2, gamma is 3, and so forth up to 9. At 9, with theta, you skip over to iota, the next letter in the series, with 10, and you go by tens, and then you go by hundreds. We all know the system. We see it for Hebrew. We see it for English. We all know the system. Likewise, Maria, again, this is a rho, not an English P. Maria can be broken out as 40 for M, 1 for alpha, 100 for rho, 10 for iota, 1 for alpha again. Add them up together, you get the number 152, which we represented numerologically as rho nu beta. Rho for 100, nu for 50, beta for 2. We all know this. We all know this method. But you have these gaps here, and no 6, no 90, no 900. Remember how I said how the Greek alphabet was standardized in 400 BCE? There were these older letters that kind of dropped out from use, but which were retained strictly for their numerical uses. Digamma, or wa, a W sound, was originally taken after the place of epsilon and was so given the value of 6. Sometimes later it was interpreted as stigma because of the graphical similarity between stigma and digamma, but technically it's supposed to be digamma. After pi, we have copa, Q, just like how in Roman script, MNOPQ, given to 90. At the end of the alphabet, we have the weird letter Sampi, which we're not really sure what phonological value this letter had, but we know its name, Sampi, almost like pi, given to value 900. These red letters, these obsolete letters, were only ever used in some accounting and some mathematical texts. They were far from common. They were never used in written language after the Ionian standardization. So they're used for numbers, and that's about it. They were never used for spelling things properly. Now, because we don't have all the time in the world, unfortunately, I can't go on to explain about all the various kinds of Greek numerological methods, but there's so many kinds of ways you can use Greek numerology to determine someone's wedding date, to determine whether someone will survive or die from an illness, or when they will recover from an illness, who of two people will win in a fight, where your lost objects are based on your name and the lunar day when you lost it of the month. There's so many ways to explore numerology and so much has been written about it. And unfortunately, we don't have the time to cover it here. Take my word for it. It exists. There are a dizzying number of ways to explore it. And perhaps in a future class, I'll talk more about that. But for now, I will leave it to you. But again, everyone knows about numerology nowadays. A lot of these methods are so common and have been virtually unchanged from ancient times that you can just use modern numerological tricks and analyses to do the same things the ancient Greeks were doing, because in all likelihood, they were doing the same things. Now, instead of numerology, I want to talk about something more interesting. something that isn't as well understood, something that isn't as well known about. Stoicheia. Stoicheia are literally elements, the building blocks of the cosmos. Now, when I say elements, I just don't mean the classical elements, but I also mean the planets and the zodiac signs. And consider, traditionally, in traditional Western magic for thousands of years, there were understood to be 7 planets, 4 classical elements, plus a quintessence of some sort, and 12 planets. And, well, 7 plus 4 plus 1 plus 12 equals 24. So there are 24 basic building blocks of the cosmos. And there are 24 letters of the Greek alphabet, excluding the 3 obsolete letters, of course, but no one cares about those anyway. So 24 forces, 24 letters. We can map the letters to the forces. We can turn our Greek alphabet not just to an oracular system, but a symbolic, quasi-astrological, quasi-alchemical one as well. And this gives us a whole lot more power in one fell swoop. Now, there are different ways to assign the Greek alphabet letters to the force of the cosmos. There are classical ways and medieval ways. I personally prefer a medieval way given by Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa von Nettenstein in his 3 books of occult philosophy. There are other systems, especially Gnostic ones from the turn of the millennium around the Roman Empire, especially in the Christian era. Find a system you like, stick with it. I like the cleanliness and the wholesomeness of Agrippa's system. That's what I'd recommend, but use your own if you have one. But we'll use Agrippa's system for the purposes of this course. So again, 24 letters. We all know this. Remember at the beginning of this course, I broke out the letters into vowels, simple consonants, and complex consonants? This is where it comes into use. Let's focus on the 7 vowels first. There are 7 vowels, and there are 7 planets. Alpha, epsilon, eta, iota, omicron, upsilon, omega. Each of these gets associated to the 7 planets in ascending order. Alpha goes with the moon. Epsilon with Mercury, eta with Venus, iota with the sun, omicron with Mars, upsilon with Jupiter, omega with Saturn. As you ascend through the heavens, you get higher and higher in the Greek alphabet. Pretty straightforward. Think about what this means. If you're doing a planetary ritual, you can use a simple vowel chant. Ah, for the moon. So if you happen to be working with other people for a lunar ritual, you have the lead operant who's saying the main prayers, and you have background people who are just low intoning alpha the whole time. Pretty nifty. And you can use this for all the planets, all the traditional sun planets at least. I use this all the time. And in lieu of some other chant or prayer, I'll just intone a vowel. It is simple, it is pure. And even the ancient Greeks had stories of the ancient Egyptians intoning the 7 notes for the 7 spheres of the cosmos. No consonants, just vowels. Interesting, isn't it? Then there are the simple consonants, the 12 simple consonants, which get associated to the 12 zodiac signs. Start with beta, and you give it to the first zodiac sign, Aries. Gamma to Taurus, delta with Gemini, zeta with Cancer, and so forth, all the way to the last simple consonant, tau, with Pisces. Likewise, for the 5 complex consonants, we start with theta, psi, phi, chi, and psi. Now here we start with the lowest and the densest of the elements, earth. And we go with the next one up, water. Water rests upon the earth. Water comes after earth. Air comes after water. Air is on top of water. So phi is given to air. Fire reaches higher than air. And spirit reaches higher than fire and beyond fire. We go from most dense to least dense. Alternatively, the least subtle to the most subtle. And that's it. We now have a symbolic alphabet, linking every letter of the Greek alphabet to one of the fundamental forces of the cosmos, be it element, planet, or sign. Think about how powerful this gets us. Just how numerology lets us numerically understand connections between words by means of their shared numbers, we can now elementally, planetally, and stellarly understand the force behind a single word. Maria, for instance, is a combination of Libra, for mu, moon twice, sun once, and Rho, Capricorn. She is the mother who balances out the forces of the moon, the sun. This allows us to get so much. We can understand words of power from the PGM. Habla nata alba, that famous palindrome from the PGM, only has alpha as its vowel. So we can understand that word to be primarily lunar, expressed through a whole bunch of different signs. We can develop words of power on our own by bringing together certain forces we want, using the elements, using the planets, using the zodiac signs. If we want a watery Mercury power expressed in a Capricorn way, Xer or Rex, we can use Rex as a chant or a seed syllable for meditation and chanting. This is powerful. This is one of the keys to understanding this Greek mystic symbolism, this Greek grammatomantic power. And this I use all the time. I use this in so many different ways, associations between the letters and the force of the cosmos. It is stupid at times. But there's lots of ways we can use this. We're going to shift gears briefly and talk about the lunar month. We know that the month, the word month comes from the word moon, because we used to track months by the course of the moon, from new to full, back to new, and so forth. A synodic month of the moon, from one lunar phase to the same lunar phase, takes about 29.5 days. So lunar months, gauged synodically, will have 29 or 30 days per month. And lunar calendars have been used the whole world over for so many ways, so many times. The ancient Greeks also used a lunar month linked to the seasons, a quote, lunisolar calendar, where every year had 12 or 13 months, with each month having 30 or 29 days each. Sometimes the calendar would start drifting, so they had a 13th month to kind of bring things back in line with the seasons. And each 30-ish day month was broken down to 3 10-day weeks, Decamera. Nowadays, we consider a lunar phase new to first quarter to full to third quarter to new again, to be the lunar weeks. But the ancient Greeks took a different approach. They had a waxing Decamera, a culminating Decamera, and a waning Decamera, breaking the month down to thirds. And it began on the evening of the first sighting of the crescent moon. They didn't start the lunar month at the conjunction of the sun and moon. They started the lunar month the first time you could see the moon in the evening after conjunction. We can make a lunar calendar that assigns every letter of the Greek alphabet to one of the days of lunar month. Now, I say this, but we only have 24 letters. And we have 3 extra obsolete letters, so it only gives us 27 letters total to use. So how can we figure this out? How can we assign the Greek letters to the hemerai, the days of the lunar calendar? Well, we start by just giving the letters to the days in order. Alpha to the first day, beta to the second day, gamma to the third day, delta to the fourth day, epsilon to the fifth day. We give digamma to the sixth day, this obsolete letter. It comes in use for us here. We continue on with zeta, eta, and theta to the next 3 days. But then we give the 10th day, this final day of the first decamera, this first 10-day week, no letter at all. This is an unlettered day. We do the same thing for the rest of the calendar. Letters the first 9 days, no letter for the last day. Letters the first 9 days, no letter for the last day. The last day, of course, may or may not be present. In the case of a 29-day month, the last day is just stampy. The last day is not unlettered. I say that only just for accounting purposes. Those who don't care about lunar months or lunar calendrics don't need to care as much about this, but pay attention because this gets really cool really swiftly soon. Monthly mechanics. As I mentioned earlier, a lunar month traditionally was reckoned to begin at or after sunset of the first sighting of the waxing crescent moon after the moon leaves its conjunction with the sun. Nowadays, a lot of people consider a lunar month to start on the day of the conjunction itself. The ancient Egyptian method was considered the morning before the last sighting of the moon. So it depends. Pick your method the way you want. I stick with the Hellenic method, which is also what's used for the modern Islamic calendar, the modern Hebrew calendar, and so forth. Think Hanukkah starts at sunset. They start at sunset because the days start at sunset. The month starts at sunset. Which months get 30 days, which get 29? It depends on the month. If you want to use a regular metonic cycle to plan your calendar out in advance, or whether you just don't see the moon anymore, it depends. There's no one answer for this. How you set up your own lunar calendar will depend based on where you are in the world, your traditional culture, and so forth. Pick a system you like and just work with it. Now, I say all this. I bring up this letter-based lunar calendar because we can use this to time our rituals. Because consider, in the span of the lunar month, we can make a cycle based on the moon, on how the age of the moon, between all the elements, planets, and signs of the zodiac. Just how we have a set of 7 days a week for the 7 traditional planets, we can now give each of the days of a lunar synodic month to each of the forces of the cosmos in a very similar way. We can use the given day of the lunar month with the appropriate letter for timing to the force associated with that letter. So we can use the day of Eta, associated with Venus, to love works. Or we could use Gamma for Taurus, or Mu for Libra, for works of romance or beauty, and so forth. It's the same logic of doing planetary rituals on a given day of the week. And this is independent, of course, of the traditional rules of astrological elections. So I'm not saying this to replace electional astrology. I'm saying this as an extra consideration you can use, unless you don't care about electional astrology, in which case you're going to do whatever you want anyway. So you can use this lunar-based calendar in tandem with traditional electional considerations, or as its own system apart and away from it. And I know a lot of modern pagans, a lot of modern magicians don't do electional astrology, but do something with the moon. This can give you a very clean, easy way of doing just that. For extra oomph, you don't have to just limit yourself to days. You can also have letter hours as well. You can use the given hour that day to focus the powers that force associated letter, just like with planetary hours. And just like with planetary hours, you can mix and match. Do you want to do a lunar thing in the day of Cancer? Do you want to do a Martian thing on the day of Scorpio or the day of Libra? It depends. And just like with planetary days versus planetary hours, the letter hour can be considered more important than the letter day. Now, we all know that there are 24 hours in a day. Just like with planetary hours, you can assign each of those to letters themselves. Although you probably want to start from sunset instead of sunrise, depending on the system of lunar calendar you're using, just to keep yourself consistent. But bear in mind, there are no associated forces for the days, the obsolete letters, or the unlettered days. Digamma, Copa, and Sampi have no force associated with them. Don't do rituals on those days. Or, well, we'll get to that a bit actually. I'll touch that a bit. And unlettered days, yeah, don't do anything at all. Treat the obsolete letter days or the unlettered days as unlucky days, days of mishap, days of things being skipped or forgotten, days unsuitable for business or work, or just like weekends. We can weave in the independent cycle of 7-day weeks with their planetary days to the letter days of lunar month. We can mix and match systems here to get even more use out of our letter-based lunar calendar. We can assess the power of a given day and mix it with the power of the day with the days of the week, versus the day's lunar month. So for instance, planetemari, days the planets. The day letter is a vowel related to a planet that falls on the same weekday for that planet. In other words, like a day of Alpha falling on a Monday. The letter of the moon and the day of the moon mixing together perfectly and aligning, making that first day of the lunar month on a Monday exceptionally powerful for specifically lunar works. You could do astremarai, days of the stars, where the day letter is a simple consonant related to a zodiac sign that falls in the same weekday for the planet that has domicile in that sign. So for instance, a day of Beta associated with Aries falling on a Tuesday, the day of Mars. Super powerful for Mars works or, Aries works. Fugemerai, days of flight, like Estremarai, but for exile. Day of Beta on a Friday. Exile, detriment, exile, same thing. I'm thinking of fall otherwise. Day of Beta, Aries on a Friday. Day of Venus. Venus is like being in Aries, so maybe that's not a good day to do works. Either at all, because of the energetic conflict between Venus and Aries, or perhaps just for those things specifically. Komastemerai, days of revel. Day letters a simple consonant, a zodiac sign, when the sun is actually in that same sign. So a day of Beta when the sun is in Aries. It could be a really powerful day for that kind of work. But we can go beyond just planning magical rituals as well. We can also use this as an oracular calendar. Just like how in Mayan and Aztec calendrics that use interlocking cycles of different sizes to give each day a day number and a day sign, which combine to indicate the general flux of energies on that day, we can use the letters assigned to the day's lunar month to give an overall idea of how things will proceed on that day. So a very simple fortune-telling tool, essentially, to plan your month ahead. So even without actually drawing a letter, we can already understand the general flow and context of energies that'll happen on a day based on the oracle of that day. So if it's the day of Kappa, to fight with ways is difficult, and you're a friend, it's probably just going to be a day that just tires you out, that just runs you down because there's just so much to happen. If it's a day of Omega, probably just a day to go back to bed. If it's an unlettered day, don't do anything new. If it's an unlettered day, it's an unlucky day, period. But we can go even further than that. We can time devotional rituals. Bear in mind the ancient Greeks had constant festivals. They didn't have weekends or days off like how we do nowadays. Instead, they had specific, frequent festivals and rituals all the time for this temple or that temple, for this city, for that colony, whatever. Some were yearly, but others were monthly. And you often had a monthly festival to all the gods. The second day of the lunar month was always given to Agathos diamond. The fourth day of the lunar month was always given to Hermes, and so forth. So you had constant days of the month given to certain gods. So independent of historical calendars, which we have a hard time understanding, when we think of the ancient Greek calendar, we're typically only looking at the Attic calendar that was used in Athens, but every Greek city-state had their own, and they all planned their festivals out differently. And if we don't resonate with Athenian religion, we may not know enough about Spartan religion or other kinds of Greek city-states practices. And so it can be hard for us to plan out certain devotional rituals across the month. But we can use our Greek letter system and our Greek letter lunar month to plan these rituals out. But we first need a correspondence from the letters to the gods and spirits of the Greek world. So now we get to link the letters with the gods themselves. Now bear in mind the obsolete letters. I'm gonna skip ahead down here first, the obsolete letters. No force is associated with obsolete letters. Those letters are dead. Those letters are unused and forgotten. So let's just give those to the dead. Give those to heroes. Give those to your ancestors. Give the obsolete letters to the dead, because those letters are themselves dead. But for the other living letters, the letters that are associated with forces, well, each of those forces can also be associated with a different divinity. Again, pulling on Critias Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, his scale of 12 in book 2 gives an, quote, Orphic scale of 12, which links the 12 zodiac signs to the 12 Olympians. Aries with Athena, Taurus with Aphrodite, Gemini with Apollo, and so forth down the line. The elements have divine associations from Empedocles, the Greek natural philosopher who came up with the theory of the four elements. Water is Persephone, fire is Hades, Zeus is air, and Hera is earth. The planets themselves, of course, have their well-known deities associated with them. Mercury is for Hermes and so forth. And also their older titans as well. So for instance, Gamma. Gamma is associated with Taurus. Taurus is associated directly with Aphrodite. Because of Aphrodite, we have a whole court of minor deities: Eros, Adonis, Harmonia, Peitho, Paregoros. We have alternative deities based on Aphrodite's other associations: her husband Hephaestus, her lover Ares. We have clusters of smaller deities: the Charites, the Graces, and the Erotes, the lover ones, associated with Aphrodite. We have whole classes of spirits associated with Aphrodite: the Naiads and the Nymphs. All of these can be associated with Aphrodite because Aphrodite is the primary goddess associated with Gamma because of her association with Taurus. She is the major focus letter. But there's a whole bunch of other minor deities and alternative deities and clusters and spirits. So if we want to do something with Eros, well, because Eros is Aphrodite's son, it makes sense to do something on her day. And her day is Gamma, because Gamma is the letter of Taurus, and Taurus the sign of Aphrodite. Think about what this means. This lets us have a whole calendar of associating all the gods, all the spirits, all the powers of the ancient Greek religious world to the calendar. We can plot out everything. We can plot out magical rituals. We can plot out divine rituals, all by using the Greek letters. And of course, there's the Coranides. This famous proto-grimoire. That's just an alphabetical index of the Greek letters, along with their various stones and herbs and plants and animals and fish and various works, all associated and categorized clearly with the Greek alphabet. So Gamma, for instance. Gamma is associated with the stone gnanthios, a hard stone like granite. We're not sure exactly what it is. The herb glycosidae, or peony, all sorts of animals. And it gives also the works we can do under the letter Gamma, which we can then do on the day of Gamma with the auspices of Taurus and Aphrodite. There's so much we can do. All this because we can use the Greek alphabet as a symbolic alphabet, as something that can combine all these things into one more or less complete system. So I know we weren't able to cover everything. I know our time is running out, but we're basically at the end of the presentation anyway. So if you can hold on for a few more moments, let's do some brainstorming. Today, for instance, today is August 17th. Well, we know that today is the day of the moon. It's a Monday, while the sun is in Leo and a waning moon in Leo. And we have the most recent new moon. Technically, the new moon, the first sign of waxing crescent, was on July 21st, 2020. So because we can count forward, today is the 28th day of the lunar month, the day of Omega, technically speaking, starting at sunset, depending on where you are in the world. So what does Omega tell us? Well, things aren't good to go at all yet, if at all. So it's a Monday. No one likes Mondays. We all have a case of Mondays on Mondays. That's the whole point of Mondays. Today's just a hard day for a lot of people. We know that the number of Omega is 800, which reduces to 8. So we can do things in sets of 8. The force of Omega is Saturn, which conflicts because the day of the moon is the day of, today is the day of the moon, Monday. So there's natural conflict between the day of the lunar month and the weekdays, which makes things difficult. Because the day is Saturn, or associated with Saturn, the deity of this day is Kronos, along with the Titan Phaenon, the ancient god Uranus, the goddess Aristea, Chronos of time, the Furies, the Fates. From the Quranides, we know that the herb of the day of Omega is basil, the bird is falcon, the fish is herring, the stone is a kind of eagle stone, a kind of geode that rattles. Eggs in general, we can all use things as magical works, specifically for Omega, but also for Saturn. From the PGM, there's even a word of power, Orion, and an angel of Omega, Olithiel. We can call on Olithiel to aid us in angelic works, especially if you're not a Hellenic pagan, if you're more of a Judeo-Christian or Abrahamic pagan, or not pagan, magician, you can call on the angel of Omega instead of the gods of Omega. You can intone the word of power, Orion, as a word of power, as a chant to focus the powers of Omega in your works. You can use all these herbs and birds and fishes and stone parts and offerings and sacrifices to the gods, or in your other works for Omega. All this by simply mapping and understanding the mystical properties and associations of the letters of the Greek alphabet with their oracles, with their numbers, with their symbolic powers, with their divine associations. We have the keys to a complete magical system here, all as a result of just taking a deeper look at the Greek alphabet. I claim that the Greek alphabet is sorely underused and underrepresented in modern magic, and I hope that you were able to learn a couple things and tips and tricks today that can increase or augment your own magical systems, even in some small way. Even if it's just, learning a new chant or just intoning ah for the moon. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for showing my presentation. I hope you learned at least something. Again, my name is Sam Block. I'm a Epiphanies. You can follow my blog, The Digital Ambler. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter, where I just do a lot of shit posting constantly and, nothing much of use there, but very active. If you have any questions, quandaries, comments, concerns, feel free to contact me through the blog, and I will be happy to take questions now in the chat. So please, if anyone has a question, we have 7 minutes left. Let them rip. Or just speak up if you want. Is there a difference between rho and kappa? So rho, you will go on more easily if you wait a little while. It's just telling to ease up, take a break, don't act now. Kappa is to endure with waves is difficult. Kappa says, take a step back if you can, hold off if you can to see if things will let up. If they don't, you'll have to endure. Or even if you don't want to move, you're going to have to endure. Kappa is you will have hard times no matter what you do. You just have to keep going. Or you just have to wait for it to pass. Rho is just telling you, wait for it to pass. So rho is a little more direct. Kappa is a little more wishy-washy, like the waves themselves. Kappa is telling you to consider what it is you're doing. Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Okay, actually, just last moment. Mu, Iota, and Pi, they all indicate work. Yes, that is true. Iota and Mu are very similar. That is true. Iota, there is sweat. It excels better than everything. Mu, it is necessary to toil, but the change will be admirable. They're very similar in that. You'll notice there is overlap in indications between a lot of these different oracles. They're not mutually exclusive necessarily. But Iota is telling you to inflame yourself with passion, to cause, complete success and conquest over so many things. Mu is telling you, just work. I don't care how you feel about it, just do your job. I don't care, just do your job. You can hate, you can grumble, you can complain, just do your job. Pi, on the other hand, is telling you, you have to keep trying. You have to keep getting better at what it is you're doing. It's a different nuance there. You know, you're going to fail in pi, but eventually you'll succeed. Just keep trying. It may not be as labor intensive, but it still requires you to develop yourself. Where would the best place to gather stones from? River, cemetery, forest, whatever. Or is there no better place? Most auspicious time of day, proper protocol, best practice on the creation of the oracle? Ask Al that. That's kind of his shtick. Al Cummins talks a lot about that, especially in his geomancy courses involving dirt and stones and such. Follow whatever protocol you're comfortable with. You know, if in your tradition you follow a certain practice of paying before you take something, or dressing up for the occasion, or sacrificing before you take something, go with that. If not, just be respectful of where it is you're going, what it is you're taking, and so forth. It's up to you. If you want to time things where you want to get a stone of Kappa, on the day of Kappa and the hour of Kappa, you could totally do that. Not saying otherwise. But I'm often lazy and pressed for time, so I often don't take all those considerations into account because I got shit to do. It's up to you. Depends on your own practice and traditions.
I had a question. When you were talking about the knucklebone divination, it looks like it's possible to get a 4, but it starts with the number 5.
It is not possible to get 4.
It's not? Because isn't one of the sides 1?
Yes, but there are 5 knucklebones.
Oh, okay. In the picture, it's because you were showing that's it.
Yeah, The picture in that slide was showing the 4 sides knucklebones.
Because I have another set that I do, like the Shage type of divination with them, and it's 4 in that. So yeah.
That's actually a good point. I actually want to bring that up. Unless you are friends with a person who slaughters sheep, or friends with a good butcher who doesn't cut through the knuckle, the easiest way to find knucklebones nowadays is to go to a Mongolian gift shop website and buy the Shagai divination sets. But bear in mind, you're going to need at least 2 sets because they come in sets of 4. And for this 4 divination, you need 5 knucklebones.
Excellent. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I do just want to thank you so much, Sam. This was excellent and wonderful. And really so much to kind of chew on for folks. So thank you so much. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. Again, if there's any questions, even after a lot of time has expired, please feel free to contact me through my blog, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I'll be happy to answer however I can.
This class has been recorded too, and if you register for it, you will have access to it until the end of 2020. We will probably have links out to all of the classes from the Salem Witchcraft and Folklore Festival. Our goal is to have them out by the end of this next week, so you should have access to them. Additionally, if there's any classes that you are interested in that you weren't able to attend or that you want to go back and check out, you can still sign up for those and purchase those classes, and you will get access to the videos as well. So with that said, thank you all so much. Thank you again, Sam.
Thank you, and thank you all for showing today. Thank you.
I think you're officially closing down the festival. So
pole position, woo!
Right. So so thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks again, Sam, and go forth, do good things, and make good magic. Have an excellent evening, everyone.
Bye. Thank you again.